Hey YouTube, it's your history teacher, Mr. Terry, back with another History Teacher Reacts video. Now, a couple days ago, I was very excited. I posted a video of Irish history. I was so excited, and a few hours pass, and I'm looking at my notifications and stuff, and bam, I'm just getting hit with comment after comment after comment on my video. I'm like, sweet, people are loving this. And I look, and they all have the same message. Oversimplified posted. But I get it. It's oversimplified. It's probably my favorite channel. It's probably your favorite channel. The reason you're probably at my channel is you're directed from Oversimplified. And I get it. And I'm very excited, though, to check out their new video, The Russian Revolution, Oversimplified, Part 1. Looks like we got 21 minutes of oversimplified goodness. So the Russian Revolution, the thing that all the history hipsters love to talk about, and very few actually know about it. Anyway, we're going to check this out. Now, the original video link is down below. I know you've subbed to them, but make sure you go over there and give them the view and the like, all that awesome stuff. We'll see what I can add. I'll give you my impressions and stuff like that. Love the oversimplified stuff. I've been able to sneak it into my classes and always looking for more of that. Before we get going, though, make sure that you check out some new links. We got links to some new history merch if you guys are heading back to school, which I know a lot of you are. We got some great, we got our old World War II Mario Kart shirt, as well as got the brand new Falling Empires World War I related shirt. That's down below. You can check that out. Also, join our Discord server. We got lots of history-minded, fun people there that want to talk to you, so a link to that is down below, as well as to a bunch of other things. But anyways, let's go ahead and get started.
Made possible by NordVPN. Click on the link in the description below to get an amazing 68% off.
Sponsors, the real MVPs.
Also, commemorating the weirdest bromance in history. Get your new character pins in Russian Revolution.
Oh man, we got the Tsar, we got
now. Link down below.
Weird homeless guy, aka Rasputin.
It's the 1800s, an exciting time to be alive. Why don't you get out there?
Not if you're a Russian peasant.
Gee whiz, Mom. Thanks. This place is amazing. Where am I? Why, you're in France, my boy. Here we come up with wacky new ways of running a country. Liberty, equality, fraternity. Whoa, welcome
French
to the
Revolution
United
motto.
Kingdom. Here we invented the train. Oh, aboard! Holy smokes! You're in a German factory, my friend. Here we harness fire and coal to create all these sexy leaderhoods. This is incredible.
All right, prediction. They're going through these major achievements that had happened by about 1800. We got the French Revolution, right? And then we got the Industrial Revolution going on over in England. And then Germany, by the time 1900 rolled around, was surpassing everybody in industrial production. My prediction, Russian boy, okay, if that's who he's going to be, going back home, because none of those things happened in Russia.
I can't wait to see where I'll end up next. Where am I? You're in Russia.
Yeah.
Have I gone back in time? No, this is just how it is.
Yep.
Are you a farmer? Worse. Technically, my landlord owns me, which makes me a serf. I'm scared.
In 1900.
Because I haven't eaten in 4 days, and you look pretty tasty. Hey, Jimmy, how are your travels? I hate you!
All right, so I know you came here for context, right? You came here for the extra stuff. I said all the stuff before. Good. And one of the things they made sure to throw in there was serfdom. You might be like, it's like 1900. Why are we talking about serfdom? It's because Russia was still holding on to that. They basically were still feudal, right? At a time where industrialization, either industrialization or revolutions, changed the social structure of society, right? Where serfdom become as necessary. But yes, the Russia had not industrialized, at least not nearly at the pace that those other nations that they had just talked about were. And Russian, people understood that, which is gonna, definitely throw some fuel to add to a fire that is about to burn.
Russia in the 19th century. feudal, underdeveloped, and stuck in the past. While the rest of Europe had been modernizing and improving their citizens' lives, Russia's rulers were taking a different approach. My lord, we're falling behind the rest of Europe. It's time to industrialize, give the people rights, and share your power. Russian czars had no time for pathetic ideas like liberty and modernization because they were too busy having the time of their lives. While the serfs were breaking their backs in the fields, the czars held all the power, and they didn't have to listen to anyone.
That's what autocracy is. And you can go back with that, basically back, I mean, you can go further, but definitely the first, like, total autocrat, well, not first total autocrat, but, you know, one that could truly be considered an autocrat, Peter the Great, and bringing up basically all institutions under the control of one person. And we talk about that in my class, too, how it's actually kind of impressive if an autocracy can actually be successful, which Russia kind of did, just because when you have somebody at the head of its own, like Peter the Great, and to be ahead of all institutions, right? Financial, military, cultural, everything. It's very hard to do. It's usually not enough hours in a day to do that. And usually monarchs don't have the drive, or at least self-awareness probably, that they can actually do those all successfully. So what do? You delegate. You send it to, you know, other types of people. But that had now gone through generations through the Tsar and the royal family here in Russia that had been going on for a long time, Romanovs, and yeah, that's what we're talking about here with autocracy.
Want to run the country like a backwards feudal kingdom while the rest of Europe outpaces you militarily and economically? Go right ahead. Want to keep the people uneducated so they don't get any ideas? There's no one to stop you. Want to keep exporting grain even when there's a massive famine causing hundreds of thousands to die? That is your God-given right. While all of this was great for the Tsar, if you were literally anybody else, it probably sucked because Russia was falling behind. If they were to keep up with Europe, they'd need a strong ruler with some big ideas. Oh look, here comes one now. Hey everyone, it's me, Tsar Alexander II, and I've got some big news. I'm releasing you all from your serfdom.
Yay!
You're all free.
Oh, but there's no plan.
I'm the best. Oh, there is one thing though. I spoke to your local lords and they weren't happy about losing all their free labor. So as a compromise, you're all gonna have to pay them back a near impossible amount of money for the next 49 years. Expect your lives to barely change.
Yep.
Okay, bye.
Yeah, the transition process was pretty much not there as far as, okay, this is actually going to be a different lifestyle. Those people just started working, you know, for basically no wages, and yeah, all this debt to pay off is the only way that Alexander could probably even keep his job, let alone life, probably from these nobles who would have been like, no, this is unacceptable. This is how our life is built upon, and you can't just uproot that. You know, there's got to be something to ease that pain, if you will, for the nobles, which it's like, what pain? But nevertheless, that's what we're talking about here. So yeah, it's like, it looks good on name. And I remember studying this in college and stuff, and then into my teaching career. I'm like, he freed the peasants. Why is there still social strife? Then you find out what the process was actually like. It was not very beneficial. But, I mean, I guess it's one step, right?
Now I know what you're thinking. This Tsar Alexander II seems like a pretty cool guy. He's trying to reform the country and get Russia on the right path. Everyone must love this guy, right?
You think?
No. Why does one man get to decide the fate of everyone in the country? This whole system is dumb. Somebody should do something. Like what? Like kill the Tsar. You're gonna kill the Tsar?
Whoa!
Me? No. I'm busy.
Just somebody should.
I was kind of hoping you'd do it.
That's right.
Okay.
You got blowed up.
See? The people love me. They're throwing flowers, confetti, and high-grade explosives.
Boom!
Okay, Nicholas, your grandfather has a mild case of being blown up by a terrorist, and he's not looking too hot. So we're gonna go say our goodbyes, okay? No, it'll be too scary for him. No.
It's the era of when you threw the bombs, right? You threw bombs at your leaders. I'm getting vibes for, you know, like Austria-Hungary, you know, like Franz Ferdinand vibes here, right? Let me go back there. I think I killed their joke.
Okay, Nicholas, your grandfather has a mild case of being blown up by a terrorist, and he's not looking too hot. So we're gonna go say our goodbyes, okay? No, it'll be too scary for him. Nonsense, it won't be scary at all. We're just gonna say a quick goodbye. Ready? Boy, look at me.
He got messed up.
People did this to me, and one day, they'll do it to you! See? Wasn't scary at all. So Alexander II was dead, but luckily, they had another Alexander lying around, Alexander III, and he felt his dad's reforms had weakened the Tsar's authority. Russia was massive, and as a result, had many ethnic minorities.
Sure.
Non-Russians?
They're an
More
empire.
interested in their own cultural
They're an
heritage
empire.
than in loving me? Isn't it great? So much beautiful culture and diversity in our great nation. Alexander thought all these minorities should be a little more Russian, and thereby loyal to him. So he repressed religious minorities. He repressed non-Russians. He introduced the Okhrana, a secret police force that repressed anybody who thought having a czar was dumb. If Alexander II was the great reformer, Alexander III was the great repressor.
This is where you're thinking like, okay, the people don't like you. So what you're going to do is try to make them like you by forcing them to like you. Does that not seem counterproductive?
Now that's how you run a country. Hey, Dad? Ugh, great. It's my son Nicholas, who I like to call a girly girl because he's so weak and pathetic. When are you gonna grow up? You still look like a girly girl to me. But Dad, I grew a beard.
It's a great
Yeah,
illustration
an
of
ugly
Nicholas, by the way.
girly girl beard. If Nicholas
just
was
like
to
him.
one day be czar, he needed his dad to teach him how to run the country. But his dad instead suggested that Nicholas go somewhere else. So Nicholas went to Japan, got an edgy dragon tattoo, had his head sliced off by a policeman, and then came home. Now will you teach me how to rule?
Oh, I didn't know
I
that.
suppose it's time. Okay, there's a lot you need to know before becoming czar. Uh-oh. What? I've got kidney inflammation.
And he's dead. Got to set up. Russia's history with Japan has been not good for Russia. Japan industrialized, by the way, first nation out of Asia to do that. And, of course, being a smaller island nation, needed mainland resources where you could build railroads and extract other resources. Again, Russia was also doing that. And you got the Russo-Japanese War at the turn of the 20th century. And Russia, humiliatingly, at least in the eyes of many, were defeated quite abruptly. And that was a big ego hit, if you want to say, for especially the Russian monarchy, that Japan is now beating them. You know what I mean? Which a lot of people say may have led to the eagerness of Russia's militarization come World War I, is they don't want to be a laughingstock anymore.
Oh no! Upon his father's death, a totally unprepared Nicholas II ascended to the Russian throne. He wasn't a reformer like his grandfather, nor was he a repressor like his dad. Nicholas was Nicholas. Timid, easily swayed, and more interested in doing whatever the hell this is. Or this. Or this. He wasn't ready to rule, and he himself admitted it.
Looks
saying,
awesome.
I'm not yet ready to be czar. I know nothing of the business of ruling. Bit of an awkward time to bring it up. However, Nicholas firmly believed that he was chosen by God to be Russia's big daddy. And while he doubted his ability to rule, he was going to give it his best shot. And hey, who knows? Maybe he wouldn't be so bad after all. To get things off to a good start, Nicholas promised free pretzels and beer to a huge crowd in Moscow to celebrate his coronation.
Yeah!
So enticing a proposition to starving peasants that the ensuing
Found him. Who could see my mouse? Follow the sign. Free pretzels and beer. Down and left. Oversimplified Waldo.
stampede left nearly 1,500 people dead. What the hell happened?
Remember
We're not
those.
sure, but you're
About
scheduled
this.
to go party with the French at 8 o'clock. Shouldn't I stay here out of respect for the people? When have Russian czars ever respected the people? Nicholas's decision to
Just
go party
bad
with the
decision.
French
Bad
immediately
PR,
tarnished his
man.
image. Some were calling him Nicholas the Bloody. The czars had been partying hard at the expense of the people for long enough. They'd emancipated the serfs, but failed to lift them out of poverty. They used their secret police to crack down on anyone who might criticize them, and they'd failed to modernize and give the people rights, something the rest of Europe had begun doing over a century ago.
Yeah.
The rule of the czars was quickly becoming outdated, and more Russians began wondering if there was a better way. For many, the solution was simple. Just look to the West. Republics, democracies, and constitutional monarchies galore. But a
Sure.
small growing group rejected that for an even better idea.
Yeah.
A little something they called communism.
You got to remember, a lot of that happened before the effects of industrialization came out, right? So, the French Revolution really started, France started really industrializing the French Revolution preceded the Industrial Revolution in France. So, industrialization got going. You got to see those economic effects. Then Britain, of course, was way ahead of everybody. And you saw also the economic problems and social problems that could come. So the Russians here are able to see what those negative effects of industrialization were and could see that. So they didn't necessarily say, hey, we need to jump into that because that's how you solve industrial or social problems with industrialization. It's not necessarily the case. The rich got richer, the poor got poorer. Living conditions were very bad in a lot of these urban areas. And they could see that here now in the 20th century that's not necessarily the path to go down, because that wasn't necessarily what they thought was enviable.
Take Vladimir Lenin, an intelligent member of Russia's middle class, and also a massive ill-tempered jerk. If you disagreed with him about anything, he wasn't afraid to call you out. You fat-headed, simple-minded, vapid, cockeyed imbecile! Tender Heart Bear is a far superior Care Bear to Ben.
Care Bears? You guys are too young for that.
And he was no
I think you guys are too young.
unrest either. His older brother was executed for plotting to kill the Tsar, and Lenin himself was expelled from university for participating in a student protest. But how did Lenin go from being a middle-class nerd to the arbiter of socialist divinity?
Okay, so learning here, Lenin had, I think I had heard that before, that he did have kind of a revolutionary family that way. So he didn't just come out of a vacuum. So yeah, you're seeing that. Maybe he wants to be an extreme reflection of his local community, which is a psychological trait that a lot of people have.
Well, to tell that story, we first need to go back a few decades to when a man named Karl
Marx
wrote a manifesto explaining how capitalism is a system whereby the stinky bourgeoisie oppressed and exploited the working masses, and that only
Monopoly guy.
warfare could the workers rise up and instate a
Uncle
communist
Pennybags.
Now go back forward a few decades to Lenin reading that manifesto and loving it. But publicly admitting you loved Marx and not Russia's Big Daddy would get you the cruelest punishment imaginable: exile.
Always ironic people talk about that Marx was German, but his ideas really didn't take hold in Germany, as the Industrial Revolution was very successful and people weren't willing to give up all of those tenets, maybe make compromises with some of the claims or things that maybe the Communist Manifesto would talk about, with the potential of exploitation and stuff like that. But always interesting that, it didn't really work there where it kind of started, but will get picked up in other places. Maybe something to liken it to that I've talked about in class is like Buddhism, which started in northern India, but didn't get as popular there as it did in other places.
To Siberia. Enjoy exile, where you'll live with your wife, chill around town, and secretly write socialist newspapers. Hey, that doesn't sound so bad. And your mother-in-law is going to live with you.
No!
Once Lenin finished his stint in Siberia, he left Russia for Europe, where he was free to hang out with other Russian Marxists and talk about how great communism was. Now today, you might hear the word communism and think of this. But that's
Bernie Sanders shooting Elon. Hold on. There was a lot going on there. We better check this out. By the way, it seems like when somebody gets sent to Siberia, they come back radicalized, because they're like, that's the worst place ever. Because Stalin, he got sent like half dozen times. He got exiled there. Come back, because he come back even angrier.
Communism was. Now today, you might hear the word communism and think of this.
Okay, let's break it down here. Okay, so we got healthcare. That's the, by the way, back there, the Ferris wheel at near Chernobyl. Elon Musk. Bernie Sanders shooting down Elon Musk.
But that's not how
Nice.
intellectuals living under a tough czarist regime saw it. To them, communism promised a land where all were equal, where workers weren't exploited.
You got Joe Exotic and Carol Baskin over here. They're hand in hand. Would that ever happen, though? I don't think that would ever happen.
And even people like you could get a girlfriend. So Lenin joined a party of Russian communists living in Europe, and he founded a communist newsletter that was smuggled into Russia to try to radicalize the people. However, not everyone in the Socialist Party agreed with Lenin. In fact, they disagreed with him on a lot of issues.
That's like the history of communism and like early communist state, and even states that are practicing communism, is a lot of people like disagree on a lot of its tenets. Look at something like how Stalin and Mao of China disagreed, even though they both would say they believe in a lot of these principles. There's so many things to have to agree upon, if you will. There are so many tenets of it. It's not just this easy, short list of things. Okay, what we got? Russians, Social Democratic, Labor Party.
And Lenin was so uncompromising that he caused a split in the party. During one conference, a heated debate broke out, and Lenin was unwilling to give an inch. You pig-ignorant, half-witted, fatuous morons! Cereal is a soup! Listen, Lenin, you're a smart guy, but you have no idea what you're talking about. We're out of here.
Cereal is a soup, hot dog's a sandwich, muffins are cakes.
All in favor of cereal being a soup? Hey, would you look at that? We're in the majority. So Lenin set up his own faction within the party he called the majority, or Bolshevik if you're speaking Russian. And the other faction became known as the minority, or Menshevik. And oddly, the majority were often in the minority, and the minority in the majority. The Mensheviks
But if you
were less
name yourself the majority, you have to be in the majority. It's big thinking, right?
radical, whereas Lenin wanted the Bolsheviks to be loyal to him and his uncompromising ideas. And if you weren't loyal, well then you're gonna get a big brain beatdown. Mensheviks worried that Lenin's attitude could lead to a one-man dictatorship. But come on, does this guy look like a dictator to you? For now, Lenin remained in Europe, writing his socialist newspaper and impatiently awaiting an opportunity to overthrow the Tsar and bring communist utopia to Russia.
Yeah, I hear a lot of people, you know, they try to differentiate Lenin and like Stalin. And saying, oh, like what Stalin did and his brutality is nothing what Lenin would have been. But then I heard all these people say, no, the only reason Lenin didn't do that, act like Stalin, or maybe as oppressive or as violent in such a long term, is because, well, he died. Would have if he had lived longer.
A free hat. Who the heck are you? I'm definitely not a Russian secret police officer spying on Marxists. Oh crap, I don't want secret police watching me. Then you, my friend, should use NordVPN.
Segue!
Do you like having your identity stolen? If yes, you need therapy. If no, you need NordVPN.
Wish I was this good at segueing.
NordVPN
or
has thousands of super fast servers in 62
the
countries
ads,
that you can
the
connect
sponsors.
to keep you and your data secure when using the web. It comes with a 30-day money-back guarantee and is now faster and more secure than ever.
So if you're going to be a
with its
political
brand new
radical, you got to use a
technology.
VPN. That's what he's saying
Have you
here.
quarantine binged all of your favorite shows on Netflix? Well, with NordVPN, you can watch the Australian version. Or is one of the greatest
heck is that
videos
show?
on YouTube still banned in your country? I think you get the point. You can now get NordVPN with 68% off a 2-year plan for only $371 per month, plus 1 month free. So click on nordvpn.com/oversimplified in the description below and get protected now. That's nordvpn.com/oversimplified. And as always, you'll be supporting my channel. So muchos arigatos, mon petit pois. Now where was I? Oh yeah.
Spies.
A timid, easily swayed czar, a massive ill-tempered jerk, impatiently awaiting a communist
That's how I
revolution.
type.
And revolution was coming, but not in the way Lenin thought. Back in St. Petersburg, one of the Tsar's most skilled and influential advisors knew the country finally needed to catch up with the rest of Europe. Hey Nick,
Yeah, he's
really
a big
gotta industrialize.
important person
Get more
in this.
factories and make some, I don't know,
Witty.
textiles or something. Won't that change the social fabric of Russia? Maybe. Hey, isn't it past your bedtime? But I haven't had my milk and snuggles yet. Will you snuggle me?
True story.
Nicholas thought modernization was boring, but he let Sergei do his thing. And do his thing he did.
Yeah.
He borrowed some money and got Russia some sexy factories. And you know what sexy factories means. Sexy workers. Dirt poor, sexy workers. Long hours, low wages, filthy disease-ridden factories. Sleep in overcrowded dormitories with all your stinky worker friends. Get your arms ripped off in a freak Russian doll accident. Conditions were terrible.
Yeah,
But
people think about factories now, but you have no idea if you're comparing it to something of early 20th century, right? Now, these are the things, you know, as this is happening here. Yes, they're industrializing. This is where people like the Bolsheviks would have said, like, we can't just take that model. That's not going to work, right? Because it's going to create all these bad work conditions and social issues that you would have just needed to see where, you know, the scenarios for where this money came from and where these business models came from. You could have seen that in somewhere again like Britain. So you could see this was, I guess, kind of one of the things that that Lenin and his people were trying to avoid because they knew this would be inevitable.
But this growing working class wasn't about to take it lying down. They started to do what workers do best.
Strike.
Despite Sergei's efforts, people in Russia still weren't happy. Peasants were still poor, liberals still wanted reform, and now the workers wanted better working conditions. And
By the way, I get asked, why strikes? Why do you see strikes? And you can see it in the modern era. Strikes are usually a tactic somebody uses when they don't have the means to enact change in other ways. They don't have political authority or a useful voice within maybe that industry or something like that. But a strike can speak loudly because you get everybody together, refuse to work. That brings everything to a halt. So why strikes? Because often it's the only outlet that somebody can have.
And the problem with being an autocrat is that when everyone's unhappy, there's only one person to blame. You.
Yourself.
The people hate me.
That's why people don't like to be autocrats.
Oh, I know. Why don't we find a weak and pathetic nation to go to war with? We'll win easily, and everyone will love
And
me.
they didn't.
Why don't we just try treating the people better? As luck would have it, an opportunity for war was forming in the Far East. Russia wanted to expand its sphere of
Foreshadowed
influence
this,
into northern
right?
China, and coincidentally, so did Japan. But Japan didn't really want war, so they proposed an idea to reduce the tension. Hey man, we'll let you do your thing in Manchuria if you let us do our thing in Korea. I don't think so. We've got the largest army in the world. What do you have? I'm the Emperor of Japan.
And a
I
way
have
better
a
navy.
giant mecha suit. Whoa. Cool. Nicholas and the boys didn't see Japan as a threat, so they felt they could push Japan around.
Can I make an actual relation to what their mecha suit would be? Their navy had become very powerful. They were able to, when they industrialized, use designs coming out of Britain and stuff like that. Especially after the Meiji Restoration, Meiji was the emperor there, and the modernization process that Japan went through. By the way, Japan's industrialization they were later than like Europe, but what they did in 10 years took like Britain or someone like that, for example, 100 years. They basically industrialized probably 10 times faster than anybody else. And one of the things they did was modernize their navy, and that's something Russia did not have as close. And it was, especially in this war, I'm sure they'll get to it, but the naval victories for the Japanese were just outstanding.
But little did they know, Japan had been rapidly militarizing, and when they launched a surprise attack on a Russian fleet at Port Arthur, everyone was shocked. Nicholas hoped it was an opportunity to win a quick war and regain the support of the people. Nobody seriously thought a puny Asian country could defeat a European superpower, and the Russian people were filled with patriotic spunk. Hey everyone, we're at war with Japan! Hey everyone, we're losing the war.
Yep, didn't last long.
The Japanese won, an embarrassing defeat for Tsar Nicholas. Russia had enough problems, but now it had been internationally humiliated.
Yep.
The public were outraged. Unrest increased. Nicholas needed snuggles now more than ever. The tension was rising rapidly, and Russia was on the verge of revolution. All it needed was one disaster to push it over the edge. And that disaster would come in January 1905 from an unlikely source, a handsome Orthodox priest named Father Gapon. Father Gapon was leading workers and their families to the Winter Palace, but this wasn't some violent uprising, it was a peaceful protest. They wanted to deliver a petition to Nicholas, which simply asked for more freedom and better working conditions.
Let's look at it. Hold on.
Wanted to deliver a petition to Nicholas, which simply asked for more freedom and better
working conditions, better working hours, limitations on state officials' power, introduction of a national parliament. So these are all things, by the way, that by the 20th century, the industrial nations of Europe had to start to do. Otherwise, they probably would have had revolutions as big as what's about to happen here. And yeah, so it took a long time for a lot of these working conditions. But again, by this time, the industrial nations had adopted all of those because they found out these are absolutely necessary for the people to buy into all of this and this new lifestyle that's now coming upon society.
Working conditions. The protest was actually so peaceful and respectful that the Marxists thought it was a big waste of time. Hey Nicholas, some priest is leading a peaceful protest. Says here they want to give you a petition. A peaceful petitioning priest? I better get out of here. Nicholas had actually left the Winter Palace days earlier, and in his place, they brought in a truckload of troops, ordered to stop Father Gapon from reaching the palace. Hello, good sir, and long live the Tsar. Please, allow me to pass this simple petition to our dear father, Nicholas II. Good day to you too. Please, allow us to respond by opening fire.
See, that is when, if you do get something that is peaceful, right, and that fails, right, your peaceful protests fail, because a lot of people say, well, why don't you try something peaceful first? And if that fails, that is a light bulb, I guess, to people, wide opening their eyes, that peaceful protest is not going to work in this situation, right? So this failure is now going to, change the attitudes of people that next, maybe you have to use some violence, right?
What began as a peaceful protest ended in tragedy. Imperial soldiers opened fire on the crowd. Around 200 civilians died, 800 more were wounded. All they wanted was the opportunity to ask Nicholas to improve their lives. Instead, they were met with bullets. Nicholas didn't personally order the troops to fire, but as an autocrat, he got the blame.
Anyone getting from a much smaller scale, like Boston Massacre and the American Revolution kind of things, where you have these protests and stuff like that, and then it's met with violence, turns into like a fight, into violence. Therefore, Plan A, which was maybe, again, more protest, boycott thing, is failed. It's time to go to Plan B, which is take it to that next level. It's the vibes I was getting there.
Bloody Sunday, and Nicholas's reputation plummeted. Strikes erupted across the empire. Workers' demands increased. Liberals demanded political power. Peasants demanded land. The country was out of control, and the 1905 revolution had begun. Listen, Nicholas, peasants seizing my land and murdering my family I can tolerate, but illegally chopping my wood, that's obscene. And the worse I treat my workers, the more they strike. I don't get it. Everyone relax. As long as the military is still on my side, there's nothing to worry about.
Money
Sir,
bag,
the
penny
sailors
bag.
are starting to mutiny. Well, my life just sucks. With Russia still losing to the Japanese, unrest was growing in the military, and some sailors had even taken to killing officers. Having the people against you was bad enough, but if the military joined in, it would be game over. To make matters worse, in October, workers and Marxists, including one Leon Trotsky, began setting up local elected councils
big
called
times now,
Soviets
big
that
timers.
coordinated strikes and supplied the workers. Sergei could see the writing on the wall. Things were going south fast, and he needed a big idea to save the Tsar. And luckily, he had just that. You see, all these angry people from different parts of society weren't really working together, meaning there was a weakness to exploit. Sergei wrote a manifesto
against each
that
other?
would give the liberals an elected assembly called the Duma. It took some convincing, but eventually, Nicholas agreed to share power and have his laws approved by an elected assembly. Hey, liberals, here's your stupid manifesto. Happy now? We certainly are. But what about these guys? Aren't you going to give them what they want? Oh, goodness no. I was just going to kill them. With the liberals satisfied, and after ending the war with Japan, the Tsar brought thousands of troops home, who then dismantled the Soviets, arrested their leaders, and crushed the peasant uprisings in the countryside.
It's like, do just enough. Just enough to keep things from imploding completely. And like just enough, just barely enough of compromise in a way. Just barely. But even that, they're still in the red zone there.
And how about that pesky parliament Nicholas had agreed to share power with? Well, he then wrote a bunch of new laws, which basically said, hey, remember that manifesto I wrote and how you guys were going to approve my laws? Slight change of plan. Actually, I'm going to do whatever the hell I want, and you guys are going to shut up. What? The people won't stand for this. People? What people? You know, this is why people don't like you.
Yeah.
Just like that, Nicholas had survived the 1905 revolution. But wait, a revolution? In Russia? Where was Lenin? Well, Lenin and his communist pals were still in exile. He tried desperately to radicalize the uprising, but all he could do was watch. As the movements failed to organize, the liberals sold out the poor, and the Tsar outplayed the people. Furious, he believed Russia had missed a great chance for a real revolution. From now on, he felt the only way left was an armed revolution by the workers. Watching the events of 1905 unfold, Lenin learned a lot. The Tsar, however, would prove to have learned nothing. After the 1905 revolution had failed, the Tsar's new top man was Pyotr Stolypin, and he had big ideas to prevent any more chaos. Step 1, reform agriculture. This'll make the peasants love you. And step 2, we'll kill anyone who doesn't. To discourage any more revolutionary ideas, Stolypin began to crack down even harder on the Tsar's opponents, and thousands were sentenced to death. The noose even earned itself a new nickname, Stolypin's necktie.
Oh, jeez.
I don't get it. Oh, I see, because it goes around my neck. That's so funny.
Yep,
but despite the oppression, many positive reforms were also being made, and the Russian economy even began to improve. This was a problem for Lenin. If the people weren't suffering, then they wouldn't support a revolution. Still in exile. And
so you could see either he just wanted violence no matter what, or he just feels this is just like there's throwing a bone to the people, and it's kind of insulting that that doesn't feel this is, let's say, noble, or just, I don't know, it's just not, no depth to this at all. It's very shallow.
Lacking funds, the Bolsheviks simply weren't in a position to do anything. Luckily, it was around this time that Lenin met an incredibly handsome Georgian.
I see a mustache.
Historical mustache, Joseph Stalin. Lenin and Stalin met at a communist convention in Finland, and Lenin liked Stalin because he was a real go-getter and was great at fundraising for the Bolsheviks. And by fundraising, I mean kidnapping, robbing, extorting, bribing, ransoming, assassinating, prison breaking, stealing, bank raiding, executioning, and stealing again. Hey, Stalin.
Sounds like the guy.
Stealing, but we still need money.
Sounds like if you're gonna be in a radical group, you need a guy like this. Your hitman, your muscle, if you will. Let me go back. He's middle of the line.
Again. Hey, Stalin. The Mensheviks aren't so hot in all this stealing, but we still need money. So the next time you do a big heist, just do it quietly. Okay, quietly. Got it. If this isn't quiet, I don't know what is. Stalin's wacky antics eventually got him exiled to Siberia, but he had established himself as a big balls Bolshevik. However, no amount of Bolshevik balls could stop what was happening. The Russian economy was making a recovery. For the Tsar, things were looking up. This is great. All Nicholas has to do is sit back and not mess anything up. Hey everyone, big news. I'd like to introduce you to my new best friend. He's a crazy, drunken, beardy, horny, scandal-ridden magic wizard man, and he smells like a goat.
He's gonna ruin everything.
Rasputin. A dirt poor peasant from dirt poor nowhere. But unlike all the other dirt poor peasants, Rasputin had holy healing powers. And when this holy mystic wandered into St. Petersburg, people began to notice. He quickly became famous, and word of this mystery man and his healing hands made its way to the royal palace. The appearance of a holy homeless healer was of great interest to the Tsar and his wife. As far as royals go, they weren't that inbred, but they were just inbred enough for their son Alexei to get hemophilia, or in layman's terms, Mamma mia, that's a lot of blood. Knowing Rasputin could heal people, in 1906, Alexandra asked for Rasputin to come and see if he could cure their son. And crazy as it sounds, Rasputin did heal Alexei, possibly by taking him off his doctor-prescribed aspirin. Having seemingly done the impossible, Rasputin became very...
Yeah, I've heard that, what he probably was able to do was give a very calming presence to the child. So hemophilia means, you have a blood clotting issue. So if you have even a very minor injury or accident, it can be fatal because your body can't respond to it and start basically healing. And if you get anxious or I guess anxiety in general, that amplifies it. And I've heard them say that Rasputin had a very calming nature to him, that, if something did happen with the kid, he was able to calm down and de-escalate the kid just emotionally, which helped with his which helped with his body and make up a little bit for, again, his blood issues. So that's what I had heard is maybe a reason why he actually did have some kind of positive effect on the boy.
Very close to the
Get an ice cream.
Family. But having a crazy homeless wizard man hanging around wasn't a good look for the Tsar, because Rasputin was freaky. Not only was he a big fan of alcohol,
weird
but he'd also
dude,
throw
man.
these crazy parties with Russian nobility, where he'd and all night long, and then he'd his whole head, not a guy's, and nobody knew how the goat got on the roof. Initially, the press were banned from talking about Rasputin, but eventually, the ban was lifted, and the tabloids went to town. The whole thing was a huge scandal, and everyone was freaked out that this guy was influencing the Tsar and his wife. Nicholas could have spent this period of...
Especially the wife. I know with him being busy a lot, he was much, much closer to her.
Relative peace improving his image. Instead, he spent it doing this. But as weird as the whole Rasputin thing was, so long as the economy continued to improve and the people's lives kept getting better, maybe Nick would be okay. Maybe there would be no more revolutions. Maybe this video could even end right here. Or maybe things were about to get worse. A lot worse. You see, the year is 1914,
hasn't even started yet.
And that means it's time for World
War I. Yep. Part 2's out. You didn't. Okay, nice. You just put them into 2 videos. I thought I remember when they done a couple parts, you'd wait a little while. So that's great. We can jump right into it and officially kind of get through the whole thing. All right. So thoughts right away. Awesome stuff. I mean, I love his. He's got his format down. He's got his format down with, I love, now that we're wherever, how many videos, dozen of videos, whatever into this, this channel, that you've got the running jokes, which are good. Those are good too, and the style and all that. But the historical content is great. I love this stuff. I can see again why people, they gush over this. They gush over this series, and it's fantastic that way. And I think again, it's something fun that is very educational. Hopefully, what these videos do, and this goes for any video that you really like on the internet, historical, is you don't just watch the video and then you're done. You're like, okay, I got the information, I'm moving on. But it leads you to going deeper into the topics. Like you heard about some of these people or some of these events, the 1905 revolution, or you saw the Russo-Japanese War. That'll make you go in further to find more information. And of course, look to see if things are, you can verify information and stuff like that. And it just, you know, hopefully gets you excited more and more. And that's what I always kind of hope for that. But even if you're just a casual person, you know, which again, this Oversimplified connects with just average people, because a lot of the people, you know, that I know watch my reaction videos to it are not necessarily people that watch them to the other series, the more maybe in-depth ones or less comedic or something like that. So it hits that vein of just kind of regular folks that have a passing interest in history. And I think that's great, because you need something like this as like a middle ground between people that aren't really into history at all and the people that are really into history. And then there's that middle ground that Oversimplifies hits both of those dynamics there. So that was awesome. But yeah, great information. I was able to learn a bunch of things jumping in without getting into too much, because this video is already going long there. But we can talk about that more maybe in part 2. So anyways, great job once again. Hats off to Oversimplified and his work and how much work he puts in. It's why these videos are so sparse. Because they take so much work. And this was a 21-minute video, and we're at whatever now on my reaction. But and then getting into a part 2, which looks like it's 24 minutes. So I'm definitely excited. I love the hook. Getting into it now. Now World War I is going to start, and we know the actual revolution hits in 1917. So we have the stage largely set. There's a couple more pieces, and World War I obviously is going to be that final thing to get that final push in there. So I'm excited because he set up all the characters. Great job there. So thank you very much for checking this out, and hopefully I was able to add a few things. Now, again, before we head out, the original link, I'm sure you watched it, you know, but definitely make sure you're doing that. Support over there in any way you can. Looks like he's got, you know, fun merch and stuff like that, posters and things. I'd love to get these for my classroom. That would be awesome. So that would be great down there. And again, if you have not subbed to my channel, I'm a history teacher that likes to comment on a lot of videos and use videos to educate myself and add any commentary and or context from a teacher's perspective. If you're into that, definitely subscribe. If you like this video, I really appreciate liking it. And again, links to stuff down below. Our Discord community is a lot of fun. We have history-related merch and shirts and stuff that are a lot of fun that you can check out down below at the Teespring link and all those sorts of things. All right, and with that, thank you so much for being here. Definitely look out for part 2, and we'll see you next time. Bye.